Well, thank you, first of all, for you all doing this. Appreciate the effort um, that you all put forward to help me get through the last primary and get real close to winning the election last time. So I want to thank you all for that first. And I am Phillip Price. As I mentioned, I'm honored and thankful to have been elected the Democratic primary winner of the 2018 congressional election. And I've lived in Western North Carolina for a little over 36 years now. Been here my whole adult life, and I've lived in 6 counties in this district, including Transylvania, Jackson, Macon, Haywood, Buncombe, and now I live in McDowell County. Went to Western Carolina University, and that's where I met my wife, Michelle, who is a native of Jackson County. Michelle and I have raised 3 children with the help of the public school system and the Episcopal Church here in Asheville. And Michelle and I have been building a business from the ground up for the last 20 years, a lumber recycling business where we take down old buildings, farm houses and barns, and any structure that has good old growth lumber in it. And we recycle that lumber, we offer it as it is, and we also create new things out of it like furniture and cabinetry and tongue and groove flooring and paneling and stuff like that. So I think it's really neat being able to make something new and beautiful out of something that was thought old and useless. So we've been successful with that business, and we now live in McDowell County where we operate that business. Why do I think that I and the candidate for this job out of the 5 that are running? I believe, for one thing, my connection to the district, having lived here for 36 years. My work takes me throughout all 17 counties of this district. So I have family, friends, and business associates spread throughout the district, which is real important. And also, I was on the ballot and got almost 40% of the vote last time. So I have name recognition. I have a grassroots organization that we've built over the last 3 years. Volunteers, hundreds of volunteers that helped us through the last campaign who are coming forward, and new volunteers are coming on board to help with this campaign. And I think that I bring the working man's perspective to this campaign, and we'll take that to Washington, to the People's House, because it is the People's House. And I believe that the House of Representatives was created for people like me. I respect and appreciate lawyers and doctors, but I think that we have enough lawyers in Congress now, and we don't have enough people who have calluses and splinters in their hands and know what it means to earn a living by working with their hands. We need people like that in Washington to represent that segment of our population. And Western North Carolina has a very high percentage of that type of folks like myself. And so I feel like I am the better candidate to represent us, the people of Western North Carolina.
Okay, well, what would you consider your sort of your most important strength that will make you a good representative once you get to Washington?
I think listening. I've heard the other candidates speak a lot about how much they're talking, going around the district and talking to everyone, which we've got to talk about where we stand on issues, but more importantly, we need to listen to the voters and the constituents to understand what the real problems are that can be solved in Washington, and to find different parts of the solution. I don't think that any one person has the answers to anything. So there's no real, the people are the heroes. Like your organization are the heroes. The people, when they come together, we all will be the heroes. I don't think that any politician is a hero, except in the fact that they can that I can bring people together and cross barriers to find solutions to real problems.
Do you anticipate continuing that sort of dialogue after you get elected? Would you be here and talking to people?
Most definitely, yes. I'd rather be here than in Washington. I'll have to work there, but believe me, every chance that I get, I'll be coming back here and not just hiding here, getting back out into the public and listening, continuing to listen. Well, I would say that winning the 2018 primary was probably the one of the biggest examples of that, where my wife and I started out as just the two of us, and as we announced our candidacy, quickly had many volunteers. Our entire campaign was run on volunteer staff. We had no paid staff. And we had hundreds of volunteers throughout all 16 of that, the last map, which had 16 counties in it. Now we have 17. But putting together that grassroots organization and organizing all the volunteers and succeeding in winning a primary against two very formidable candidates the last time. I think that would be an example. I felt a calling for it, but one thing that really compelled me to do it was healthcare, and my healthcare, and understanding how I was in the same situation as so many other people. Being self-employed, I didn't have health insurance for many years, and then the Affordable Care Act was passed, and we were able to we purchased some affordable health insurance, and then when the current administration was elected and the incumbent was seen continuously telling me that they were going to repeal and supposedly replace, but never offered any replacement plan, just the repeal of my health care and my family's and so many millions of other people. I just couldn't sit back and let that happen without making some sort of effort to get involved. And I felt like Congress was probably the most direct path that I could take to get to be effective with that. Square mileage, maybe 7,000 square miles in this district. Time, not having enough time and not being able to be in more than one place at a time. And I guess in the 2018 cycle, raising money was a little difficult because we had such a horribly gerrymandered map that a lot of folks who would normally donate to a Democratic candidate weren't so enthusiastic about it, just because they knew the odds that we were against with the incumbent and the powerful people and money that were behind him, and really just the gerrymandered map. So raising money was a challenge. The vastness of the district, the mileage that had to be put on, and just trying to continue to run my business. I'm not a wealthy person, and I have to keep working to pay the mortgage and buy the groceries. Since I filed, we've filled our schedule, our calendar with all the events, all the candidate forums, all the barbecues and pancake breakfasts and potluck dinners, and we're trying to get to as many of those as possible. I've got an event coordinator who's arranging meet and greets and fundraisers in several counties. We've got our signs. We're recycling our signs from the last campaign and getting those out everywhere. Those are effective. Some people aren't convinced that they are, but I know they are. We have another television commercial that we're working on, and hopefully we have enough, can raise enough money to get it out effectively so it can be aired enough. Radio commercials, and just as my business, as I've mentioned before, I have relationships with Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliateds in my business, and after we finished talking about wood, we talked politics, and most of the people that I speak with that are not Democrats and maybe even Republicans, they seem to be receptive to the policies that I'm talking about. They say that I'm sensible, I have sensible ideas, and they make sense, and they're things that help the majority of the people. And I'm told by a lot of those folks that we need more people like Phillip Price in Congress.
You mentioned that you had run your last campaign based on all volunteer organization. You plan on doing that again this time?
Well, right now we are before the primary, because this primary cycle is even a little tougher than last time because there's more of us in the primary, so there's less money to go around from the people who are donating, and folks tend to wait before they put their money on perhaps the wrong horse. And so once we get through the primary, I would expect that fundraising will kick in pretty heavily. And once that happens, we will hire some paid staff for sure. I'm going to focus on a positive campaign about providing opportunities for so many people and building the middle class and strengthening the middle class and reducing poverty. I think that's a positive message. I'm not running against anyone. I'm running for the people of Western North Carolina. And I think that's a positive message. I think that the voters and the American people are sick and tired of the dirty politics and the people attacking one another and running against things. It's time that we start running for things. And I think that's a positive message, and it's a winning message. I think that it's possible that he may come to Asheville to support whoever the Republican candidate is, but that might bite him in the hiney, because especially after this impeachment plays out, it's not over yet. We've got hopefully some witnesses. And if we don't have witnesses, we have information that's going to come out regardless of what happens in the trial itself. And that's going to affect his popularity and his influence. I think the typical attack is going to be that I'm a Democrat and a progressive and that I want to take away the guns of the good people of Western North Carolina, which I'm not. That's not in my program. I am a hunter and a fisherman, and I own a rifle and a shotgun, and we're not trying to take people's guns away. We more than 80% of Americans agree that we should have some sensible gun laws. One of my customers today, who's a Republican, who's carrying a pistol on his belt, agreed with me on pretty much all of the gun policy ideas that I have, as far as background checks and even registering guns from one owner to the next, and it's just sensible gun legislation. I think that'll be one of their big attacks. I think the most important issue is, having listened for the last 3 years going around the district, is healthcare and access to healthcare. Of course, on the state level, we have failed to expand Medicaid, which has denied about 500,000 people of affordable health care. But I believe that we've got to go farther than that. I'm a recipient of the Affordable Care Act, and this administration has been chipping away at it so that its legs are it's getting tougher for it to continue to exist. So I support 100% Medicare for all. The current bill being HR 1384, and I don't support a public option. I support a 100% Medicare for all. The reason I don't support the public option is because it keeps the private insurance companies and the pharmaceutical industry still in control of costs, and the administrative costs will become even more expensive than they are now. I believe that a Medicare for all is going to reduce costs by eliminating so much of the administrative costs, but it's also going to produce millions of jobs across the country, which is going to expand the tax base, which is going to increase revenue, which is going to pay for Medicare for all and bring people across the threshold from poverty into the middle class, and just make so many people's lives better. And that's what politics is about to me, is improving lives. Well, how do I promote the idea of Medicare for all? Continue to go out to the public and in whatever platform I have, whether that's television and in the media or in person in meetings, and just educating people about what it really is, what it means, and how it'll affect their lives and improve their lives. But obviously working with the other members of Congress. However, I'll have to say that even though we have good ideas about healthcare and public education and in renewable energy and and infrastructure, none of these things are going to go anywhere until we get the money out of politics. That's the big one. And right now, the House has already passed H.R. 1, which is For the People Act. But there's another piece of legislation called the American Anti-Corruption Act, and I encourage people to look that up. Until we get corporate money and reverse Citizens United, really these huge legislative things are not going to be possible, because there's so many of the existing politicians that are in the pockets of corporations and billionaires who stand against progress. And those people ask, well, how are you going to cross the aisle, and find common ground? And I just have to say that it's almost, there's some camaraderie and we can find some common ground, but so many people, they're afraid of losing their backing, of losing their job, because the people, the corporations, and the wealthy that pay them to be there to hold that line and stand against the wall and not allow progress is going to be there until we get the money out of politics. I want the voters to know that I approach everything through a lens of love and not hate, and that the only way we're going to reach all the people is through a loving message and not one of hate.